101 FM, Wellington Access Radio.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Nailed it! Oh my god, that's the first time.
It's not the first time, we did it on Wednesday, fine.
It's true, but I haven't seen you in a while.
Okay, so you're in the studio today with Eddie, Leah, and Nani, and our very special guest. But before we do that, introduce our very special guest. Leah, you have something that she'd like to run over quickly?
Yep. Real quick. You timing me?
Okay, hang on.
Put the second hand on.
Put the second hand on. Right.
Okay.
And go.
Right now, get down to St. Peter's on Willis Street. They're doing the talks and meeting the mayor and the MPs about the social housing situation at Wellington City Council Housing. This is a campaign for the income-related rent subsidy. If you've got friends, family, or whānau in Wellington City Council Housing, get down there and support the team. Support the homes.
Support the homes.
Support the homes. We need homes. We need them to stay ours.
Perfect. 30 seconds. Well done.
Oh. Yeah, I'm getting better at that.
All right. So our guest today is.
We have the pleasure of having.
Talented. Yeah. Do you want to let Dani
This is welcome to the Blackhouse. Hi, I'm Nani. It's been a while. I was away last week. And today we have Wanjiku Kiarie. Have I done that correctly? Kiarie. Kiarie. I'm so sorry. We have the wonderful Wanjiku.
Wanjiku.
Yeah. Here from the with the Africa Connection. Here she is a poet, an actress, and a gardener, of which I am proud of. Like I'm excited about talking about. To tell us about her movements through her career. Welcome, Wanjiku.
Thank you, Asante Sana. I thought before I tell you more about myself, first I'd like to say I was born in Kenya in the 50s and grew up in Nairobi, and I went to school in Nairobi. I spoke Kikuyu until I went to primary school, and when I got to my primary school it was a mixed class, and they asked me my name and I said Wanjiku, and they all laughed because there was Elizabeth, Mary, Margaret, and so on and so forth. I was just called Wanjiku, which is, I'm named after my mother's mother.
Right.
So I am my mother's mother.
Mm.
But never mind. I've lived in Kenya until I was about 21. Then left for London, plays and as well as radio.
Mm.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And that was an experience that was formative for you, like instead of like pushing forward. Well, I immediately had some questions of like, what is it like to be a black actress in London? Like, what, circa the 70s?
77 onwards.
77.
I was lucky in a way that there was an established black community arts centre, Keskidee Arts Centre.
Right.
And within the centre there was a theatre. And the community was actually there to support the street kids,
Yes.
street sleepers.
Yeah.
So the basement of the art center was for the street kids,
Yeah.
and the upstairs was the first professional black theatre,
That's
which
beautiful.
was Caribbean. I was the only African at that time, and there was African American.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was there like a big community of black street kids in London?
Oh yeah, in 70s. Yes.
Yeah. No.
But that was their base
Yeah.
for the Islington area,
Hmm.
North London,
Yeah.
and that's why there was food for them.
Hmm.
And if they felt like it, sometimes we call them the rude boys. Sometimes if they wanted to come upstairs and see a play, and some of them we changed them, some of them got parts in the play as extras, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess,
That's
like
really
I've
good.
been, because my family is from London, so my family grew up in, so my dad, my grandparents were wave Jamaican migrants into London, so I know so I've obviously gone back and looked at some of the figures like Lenny Henry and Benjamin Zephaniah
Yes.
and all those,
Yes.
who else was the other guy? Kwesi Arthur.
Kwesi.
Yeah.
Linton Kwesi.
Yeah, Vincent Kwesi. Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
he was based in Keskidee Arts Centre as well.
Oh wow.
Yes, it's my night.
Yeah, because my auntie was, one of those things, I was talking to my aunt who's still over in London at the moment, and she was saying, like, I was looking at poets, and she was like, Vincent Kwesi Arthur. Like,
Oh yeah. And also at Keskidee Arts Centre, we had, when we came here in '79, Muldoon came to visit us there. So Keskidee Arts Centre was the place to go for a lot of people, like visitors, like people like Dennis O'Reilly came there to bring us the group, the Keskidee Aroha group based in Aotearoa. You know, the Tingy Ness, Chef who's dead.
Yep.
He came to Keskidee to talk to us about our trip here in Aotearoa in '79.
Wow.
And Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Yeah, I'd just like to frame that a little bit, because there'll be a lot of people listening that won't even know about this history.
I was about to say, I was basically going to like interject and say, like, I am New Zealand's Black-Street kid, you know, like grown up now, but there's so much like I'm every time I'm listening, I'm taking in so much, you know, like, so I'm always here to be like, so for those of us in the Black community who didn't get the like full sweet Black education, where are we talking
the original
about?
production of the Trials of Didan Kimathi, and we actually took over the National Theatre, which was basically for white productions.
Wow.
Even
Wow.
during independence, there was a bar upstairs, and one of when we were rehearsing the Trials of Didan Kimathi was the leader of the land and freedom movement, which was called Mau Mau.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was hanged by the British. So the Trials of Didan Kimathi was a play by Ngugi wa Thiong'o and Michere Mogo, based on the actual trial that Kimathi was put under by the British, by the colonial rule.
So he was around was he around the 1800s or the 19, how long
No,
ago?
this is after the Second World War.
Wow,
He
that
was,
recent.
He was with the East African Rifle that was fighting Hitler,
Okay.
you know, on the behalf of the British.
Yeah.
And when they came back, the Mau Mau, so-called Mau Mau, you know, they were landless. You know, the whites had taken the White Highlands, Kenyan land,
Yeah.
and they were just, they had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And so what they did was they formed the movement and went up to the hills, Mount Kenya, and fought the British
Right.
from
Yeah.
there. And Mau Mau, or the Land and Freedom Fighters Movement, was the first liberation movement in the continent that was not supported from outside.
Right.
And
Yeah.
people don't understand or heard the side of the Mau Mau struggle. It was for land and freedom.
Yeah.
And after independence, they were pushed aside.
Right.
And so Kimathi, the Trials of Kimathi is by Ngugi and Michere, is based on that trial that Kimathi was put under,
Yeah.
and then he was hanged. And Ngugi brought his wife was in the audience, one of our performances, and the whole village of ex-Mau Maus, and you know, they were there in the audience. They came to see the play.
Wow.
So I started theatre way back before I left for London.
Yeah.
I was a founder of City Players, which we did for television. We did African plays for television. People like John Buganda's play, Francis Imbuga, South African plays, West African plays. We did a lot of plays in Kenya while I was there before I left, and then we went to Lagos for the Festac, the first Black festival of arts. The Caribbeans, African Americans, the whole world was there in '77. Festac in Nigeria.
Right.
So we went to represent Kenya for the Festac. And that was a festival that Fela Kuti did not participate because his compound was surrounded. He was not allowed to come out of his compound.
Because he was in a lot of trouble with his government too,
He was
wasn't
a
he?
radical.
Yeah.
I mean, Zombie. I mean, when you hear his songs
I
like Zombie.
remember the first time I heard Zombie, and that was like,
Yeah.
wow.
I don't know, like I remember the first time I heard Fela Kuti, like probably not the first time, but you know, like the first time it hit me, right? And you're sort of listening to it, and like your body's moving before, like your thoughts don't catch up. Your body's moving, and then at some point, exactly like you say, like the lyrics are hitting you, and like, wait, hold up, like back this train up. This means something. But again, you're too like in my case, you're a little bit young.
When I was working in Cromwell before I moved up, when I was working in a cafe, I had like an 8-hour playlist of just like music that I play.
Yeah.
And I had What a No Get Enemy and Zombie in there.
Yeah.
And at just random points during like dinner service,
Yeah.
suddenly Zombie would come on, or What a No Get Enemy would come on. And it's one of those things just like people, it was always interesting trying to see if people would react to it, or how if there was any kind of thing. Most of the time they didn't.
Yeah.
Most of the time they would just continue with their meal, but it's always interesting to try. And I was always trying to work out, does anyone recognize this?
Yeah.
Has Fela Kuti just in someone's like they're just there kind of in their retirement, they started going through a whole bunch of music, or that it was going to uni days or whatever, and you sit and go like, is anyone recognizing who this is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just hope that I'm not up to date with what's happening with music. But people like Fela Kuti, you know, we grew up with his music, and he was an activist.
Yeah.
You know, his music inspired us. You know, growing up with James Brown, you know, it was just, and of course the Jacksons.
Yes. Oh, very much so. Oh.
With his afro and
little baby Michael Jackson is the cutest baby boy.
Yeah.
Little Michael is the cutest baby boy. Like one day I'll have my son, my new son.
And while in Kenya, I worked for Voice of Kenya, and I had a program called Yours for the Asking from 4 to 6. Yeah, so I've done radio and stage and television in Kenya before I left. So I was grounded.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. No, I'm always really excited when I hear people talk about like black people engaging in the film and theater. I think that one of the things, especially writing as well, because our task in my mind moving forward into the future is designing our future, is asking questions about the past and like perceiving that and projecting new roles as we move forward, questioning old ones and putting new ones forward. So I'm really excited to hear your stories about acting. It's quite exciting to me.
It's quite liberating, I think.
Yes.
You know, like some of us who didn't know our history, you know, we were never taught our history.
Yeah.
I mean, the British education system, which is what was happening in Aotearoa anyway, did not teach you about your culture or your history.
No.
And so through theatre, like plays like The Trials of Dedan Kimathi or Imbuga's Betrayal in the City, you know, awoken a lot of us young people in Kenya, you know, taught us to respect our own culture, to embrace it, and to question what was happening in the country.
Very much
through
so.
theatre, through music, through poetry.
Yeah.
And don't just stay in the city and do your poems. Ngugi's play was performed, I'll Marry When I Want, in the village, by the villagers, you know. That was before they put him in prison, you know, and the government started saying, oh, no, he has dressed the students up to perform. Those were villagers telling their stories. So you don't actually take the theatre to the villages. They have the theatre. They have the stories. You know, so I'm taking theatre to the people. No, they've got it.
Yeah.
You know?
Sitting around a campfire talking about like even just making shit up about other people is as old as time.
Yeah. That's drama. Like the olden ways of, you know, your grandmother will sit you near the fireplace, tell you the stories. They'll sing songs. You know, like there was a lot of songs about the Mau Mau struggle I learned by just listening to my mother singing them.
Yeah.
And because you couldn't talk politically, otherwise you'd be in prison, they used to sing songs in Gikuyu to communicate
Yeah.
and
Right.
pass on messages
Yeah.
Yeah.
to each other. You know, so songs and songs were very powerful because they could not actually. They're just singing. They're just Africans,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
natives.
yeah.
Yeah.
They just like singing.
It's
and
benign, it's
drumming
benign singing.
And drumming. You know, they
Well,
did
it's
not
like
understand that talking drum.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes.
It's that's why it's called talking drum.
Yeah.
It can tell you what's happening in this village to the next village over the valley. You know, it's a talking drum, and it talks. It passes on messages of what's happening here to the next village.
Yeah.
And those were the instruments people used.
I always liked the concept that before it was called theater, it was called gossip. You know, like before we were writing stories,
Oh,
we
you
just called
read
it gossip.
Shakespeare? Huh?
You know, oh, very much so. Oh, very much so. It's just the town crier making it sound fierce. Yeah, right.
Hey, there's a lot of gossiping in Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, very, very. And Midsummer Night's Dream, you know, like it's all like the story is in what isn't being told correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
You would say.
I was thinking a couple of things. I guess like when you're talking about like talking drums and passing on messages through song, it's almost like you can see that in Brazil with like capoeira, right? Where it's like it's that thing it's like, oh, it looks like a dance, but actually it's like, okay, we don't have a lot of weaponry, we can't do anything, but how can we fight back and how can we train ourselves? It's like, we'll make the mask as a dance.
Yeah. And certain dances were danced for a particular reason, for particular occasion.
Yeah.
You know, songs were written for particular occasion.
Yeah.
Could be harvesting or tilling the land or sowing seeds. There were particular songs for those particular, occasions and events.
The
You
culture
just
and
didn't
the
stand
tradition.
up and sing a song and shake your booty.
Yeah.
Just for nothing.
Yeah.
There must be a reason.
Yeah.
Like the Gikuyu, they have the shoshos, the grandmother, they have momboko. They sing it for particular occasion, especially when there's wedding. So you don't dance that song when there's a funeral.
No.
You know? And people don't understand that. They think we Africans just like dancing. you
Yeah.
know? It's
Dancing for no purpose, but there's always a purpose.
No, there's always a purpose. I
That's what people ask me when I say, when they ask you where you're from, I say, from Kenya, but I can't run.
Ah,
Because they associate Kenyans with just running, the runners.
It's like Jamaica, like now Jamaicans, it's like, after obviously Usain Bolt and something, it's like, it's almost like Jamaicans and Kenyans. It's like Jamaicans and Jamaicans is like short distance.
So
Short
long
distance.
distance.
Yeah, and
yeah.
That's why I wrote the poem called Mad,
Yeah.
It's called Mad, and it's just, I was totally fed up of being asked where you're from in this country.
Yeah.
You get fed up,
Yeah.
So these days I just say I'm from Utaki.
Yeah.
And they go pink and they go.
Right.
Sorry?
Is what I say, I think that's probably a good point. We jump into some music and then
Yes.
come back.
Yeah.
Alright, so first up we have In the Neighborhood by Sisters Underground, and then we have K&D, KYT and Baby Draco, and I think we'll start with exactly that. Do you want to tell us a bit about Sisters Underground, just briefly, Leah?
I only just found out about them
Only just
recently. I mean, like, I knew about them. Of course I knew, but I'd never seen the video. And I didn't know anything. I just thought there were a couple of girls from Otara and they were both Pacifica. But the girl who sings with the girl that was Samoan is actually African American from Hawaii.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
And this is back in, what was the date?
Let's call up first, girl.
I know.
Where you at?
Yeah.
What part of Hawaii?
Yeah.
Excuse
I don't know.
me,
I didn't get all that information on the documentary.
I'm gonna have to do some research.
So yeah, so I was like, what? We've had black culture touching New Zealand hip hop for quite some time, because you got Tere Moana Rapley with Upper Hut Posse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Jamaican,
Perfect.
Jamaican Polynesian. So there you go. So that's a little bit of background I found out about.
In the neighbourhood. Like,
All right, so you came down to New Zealand in the 70s, and I'm really with Keskidee Aroha and the Africa Dawn. Was that
No, the Keskidee Arts Centre theatre group.
right? Okay.
Yeah, was brought here
Yeah.
by the government and the Keskidee Aroha.
Yeah. So I wanted to get
Keskidee is
to
a name, a Caribbean name of a bird.
yeah. I was reading that. I was reading that today. Because I wondered what that word meant. But it was also. Can you tell us a little bit about how that was at that time in the 70s, just coming to New Zealand and, you know, with your theatre group and then coming into the New Zealand experience with that perspective on what was the perspective you were bringing?
I think us coming here, we had the idea that first of all we are actors, you know, and then we arrived at Te Hapua up north, tip of the north, marae. There's a welcome, and that was my first marae welcome, and to me it was quite overpowering in a sense that I haven't gone through this in my culture. It doesn't happen in my country, but here's a powerful welcome for us at the tip of north in Te Hapua, and then we were fed, and there was a marae to sleep in, and so the whole tour, although it was exhausting, taught us a lot. Because the plays we were doing, we had excerpts from Steve Carter, we had Edgar White's plays, we had African plays. So everywhere we went, whether it was from up north to east coast to prisons, you know, there was always an excerpt to perform or a monologue. And it was perform, sleep, move, travel. So it was something we were not used to. And some of us were complaining, we're tired, we need at least one night's sleep away from the marae. Because when you sleep in a marae, you know, some people are strumming their guitars, you know, you can, it's not a motel, you know. It was, to some of us, it was exhausting, but it was something taught us something, that you're not just performers. You know, you've got to impart your culture, and this is our culture. We're passing on to you our Maori-ness, our reo, and you have to accept it the way we do it. And of course, we were from Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, Kenya, you know, from all sorts of African American. Rufus Collins was our director. You know, we were all from different experiences, and to see that collectiveness of the Aroha was overpowering to some of us. We had never experienced that.
So that places you here at that very time in New Zealand where there was very few Africans in New Zealand.
I can't say there was any.
Right.
77.
Yeah.
79.
Yeah, and that's a really, I think for our generation growing up here that have grown up around their communities, what was that like, bringing your, that
Theatre group.
yeah, like basically like the Māori people were imparting their Māoritanga to you. What was the culture from all the different groups starting to feel like it wanted to come back out towards them?
I'm not quite.
So was it like an exchange? So like exchange a couple
Our
of songs, like,
exchange
so you were
was
taking-
what the basic. When you read Edgar White's play, like Black Women or Steve Carter, Eden, the plays we brought here were relevant to actually, when you look at Edgar White's Lament for Rastafari, he's talking about the play so powerful, and a lot of Maori like Black Power and there was King Cobra.
Yes.
And they could relate to lament for Rastafari, the play.
Yep.
So through using the tool of performance, of theatre, we were sharing our experiences.
Right.
And I believe from then, after we left, there was a lot of music started, especially reggae, and there was a tinginess, Shakespeare's
Herbs.
Dead,
Yeah.
and there was the kind of realization that we can use music, we can use theatre, we can use drama to actually impart knowledge or promote our own background. And that, to me, the connection between our coming here and theatre establishment here.
Did you arrive at the same year? Was it 79?
Yeah.
So were you here when Bob Marley came?
No, he had already come to our theatre. I think Keskidee, I think that's when he recorded One Love.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that our exchanges, especially performing in prisons, was very important, and I still meet people from those days, and they still remember Keskidee and the plays that we did, and to me that was important. Yeah.
Yeah, because there was, I did read a little bit this morning, there was a very powerful scene in one of the plays that really reflected on, the gangs went back and reflected about that situation for that woman.
It's a rape scene.
Yeah, a rape scene. Yeah, because gang rapes and what have you were very everyday. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my part. It's an excerpt. I do a little. I was in a one-woman show based on a real story of a South African who was in prison in a police station, and that's what happened to her. So it was a one-woman show. So we took that excerpt with us and performed it here. And I remember very well the reaction we got.
Yeah.
You know, from the gangs, and some of them said we didn't know that it's painful. We didn't know it hurts. You know what you?
Yeah.
Because it's a powerful. I don't think I'll be able to do that part again, but it is.
Yeah.
But it's based on a real true story of an African woman in a prison in South Africa. Then Maggie Thatcher came to power. A lot of community arts centres and groups were dismantled. Everything was for privatization. So Keskidee closed. But me and a few friends of mine from Ghana, from Mali, from Senegal, from Tanzania, we formed a group called Facezone on our experiences and historical experiences of Africa, and played only African instruments. So it was like griots. It was the first African-based poetry group in London, and we toured all over Europe. So I was a founder member of Africa. It's called Amazania. This was written by African Dawn plus other activists in exile from Azania, South Africa. Do not call me as South Africa. Amazania, land of black folks, grain grown when stones were still as soft as butter. Amazania, land of Zanch. Amazania, I ran wild and free when dawns were young. I mastered iron and I tamed iron long before the steel-eyed plunderers came. I am Azania, land of black folks. I am Azania, the name reconciled with itself in the deeds of Bantu Biko, Nelson Mandela, Uncle Zeph Motherpen. I am Azania, the meeting point of gun, pen, chisel, brush, hammer, and hoe. Do not call me South Africa. I am Azania, the truth made dream, the dream made true. Izwe letu, Izwe letu.
Thank you for that. So how many minutes we got left?
3 minutes.
I want you to tell us about Africa Connection and the Kiswahili Project really quickly.
So in 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Africa Connection was formed, as a trust was formed in 2007, 2008. By me and my late husband, Martin Sanderson. But Africa Connection as a name has been in existence since I came to live in this country in the early 80s. And we did the Black Woman, one solo performance. And we've done a lot, we did Muntu, we've done a lot of productions and workshops, poetry, organizing poetry. By 2008, we formed a trust, and we brought a Kenyan writer called and actor, and we did Muntu, which he directed with me. So Africa Connection Aotearoa looks at promoting African, no matter which ethnicity, which particular part of Africa you come from, and promoting the connectedness of Africans as Africans living in Aotearoa through theatre, through poetry, through music. And so that's why we formed Africa Connection Aotearoa. And recently I thought, hang on, we need to teach our young people how to, Kiswahili, the language.
Yeah.
They're losing the language. And what best can we, instead of teaching them Kikuyu because I'm Kikuyu, or you teaching them Somali because they're Somali.
Why not?
Or use Kiswahili. Kiswahili is a unifying language. It's spoken in many parts of Africa. And actually, it should be a unification language used for the continent. And Kiswahili is now, it's taught in the United States. There's African Americans who are speaking Kiswahili better than me.
Yep.
Wow.
So,
So this is a project that's going to kick off in
February
2022?
Yeah, it's particularly aimed at the children, the youth, and their family, jamii yao. And we hope the pilot, after doing the pilot for 8 weeks, will do more.
Great.
Yeah.
I wanna thank you for coming in.
Yeah,
You're a national treasure. You're full of history. I think that's really important for young people growing up here. It's really important for old people being here a long time too. I will be utilizing those Swahili classes, and
In February 27th.
we're going to get you back on the Blackhouse around then to give us some more details about that.
So, okay, this has been the Black House with Eddie, Leah, Nani, and Auntie Wanjiku. Catch you guys all next week. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.